In order to thread a needle, the key is first to notice which direction your thread is twisting in, because thread is twisted around itself. I believe it's usually to your right, and twist the end of your thread quite tightly. And this is just going to hold the fibers together even more while you're trying to thread your needle. Then I find it's easiest to cut the tip of your thread off, because there's probably going to be a bit of roughness there, so you can start with a really clean end of your thread and use very sharp scissors to do this. I cut it at an angle because then it forms like a little slightly pointed tip that seems to go through the needle easier. And then I lower the needle onto the thread rather than trying to push the thread through the needle. And there it's threaded. Thicker thread like buttonhole twist can also be used. Can also be put through a pretty small needle. And it's the same process, twisting it very tightly so that it's not going to unravel as you're trying to push it through. It also helps if your buttonhole twist has been pulled through some wax and ironed in order to integrate the wax into the thread, and that's going to hold the thread together better. Again, and it seems more important here than in the smaller thread, it's best to cut it at an angle. So I'm holding the very tip of the thread very close to the end to kind of flatten it. And I'm lowering the needle onto it and pulling it through. And before I'm pulling it very far along, because this eye is pretty close to the size of the thread, I'm retwisting the thread and just sort of pulling it so that it doesn't get misaligned and disrupted. If you saw when I pulled it through, one part of the thread was pulled through a little bit after the other two, and so it ended up bulging a little there for a second, but now because I've stretched it back out, the rest of the thread won't be disrupted as I'm pulling it through the eye. For a needle that's significantly larger, that has a long flat hole, and for which you want to use embroidery floss or buttonhole twist or something, what you can do is again twist the thread, or buttonhole twist or embroidery floss in the direction that it is twisted in. And then loop the embroidery floss or buttonhole twist or whatever you're using, and hold it very flat and very close to the tip, and lower the needle onto this loop rather than onto the edge of the thread. And then just pull it through.